Hey, it's Ted McGrath. So I'm going to share the 7 presentation secrets to presenting online or from the stage. So one, you can deliver a great presentation, and two, you can also get clients online or from stages. Now, there's a few key points here that I want to point out when you're doing presentations, which is if you're not used to just talking off the cuff, you can use these 7 tips or 7 steps as a guideline to present. And so if you're doing something online, you could have like a whiteboard behind the computer here to do it. Or if you're doing something from the stage, you could have a PowerPoint that you refer to. So depending on how you like to present, you can have little key notes or little key bullet points to lead you through the presentation. So here's 7 steps right now. The first thing you want to do in a presentation is you want to lead off with a headline, okay? So in any ad that you do, in any video presentation that you do, in any stage presentation that you do, there's a simple headline formula, and it goes like this. Today, I'm going to help you do this so you can have that. Or today, I'm going to teach you this so you can have that. Like today, I'm going to teach you the 7 steps to presenting online so you can get more customers online and wow people from the stage, right? So every start to a presentation should have the hook or the headline in it because that's how you grab people's attention. So number one, give a good headline, use the formula I just gave you. Second thing you want to do in a presentation is you want to address the problem that people are facing. So you might say something like, hey, I know one of the big problems that people have in presenting from the stage is it's hard to confront the audience, or it's hard to remember what you're going to say, or you have challenges in stage fright before you get up on stage. So in today's presentation, I'm going to talk to you about number one, how to present powerfully with little notes next to you on the stage so you can refer to them. Number two, I'm going to talk to you about how to present so you're totally confident when you get up in front of a presentation or in front of a room. And number three, I'm going to help you do X, Y, Z. So you can immediately share the problem that people are facing, and then right away you can go to the solution. Okay, great. So the problem you might be facing is this, but the solution I'm going to share with you today is this, this, and this. So again, in the beginning of a presentation, one, hit the headline. Number two, address the problem. Number three, go right into the solution of what you're going to actually teach today. All right. Now, where does storytelling come in the presentation? I've been doing presentations from the stage for a long time. I do storytelling when I'm doing an ad that might be 10 seconds. When I'm doing a webinar, I might do a 90-second presentation. If I'm doing a sales video, it's more like 30 seconds. I do a stage presentation from the stage that's 65 minutes of storytelling where I play 12 characters from my life and I do a one-man show. I have all different variations of storytelling. And when I'm doing a pitch from the stage, I have about 4 or 5 different stories that I'll tell, okay? Now, for the beginning part of a presentation, the main story that's important for you to share is your story and your credibility, okay? So again, presentation, if you're just joining us, number one, headline. Number two, address the problem. Number three, here's the solutions I'm going to offer up today. Number four, here's my story. Here's a little bit about me and my statistics. Okay. A great story has 3 components. Number one, a story has a loss to it. Like you're down in the pit, you're lost, you don't know how you're going to get through it. Number two, you search for the answers. And then finally you break through. Now, if you're telling a longer story, then it's the pit, the moment of loss or challenge. Search, we think you're going to break through. Oh, down in the pit again. Search, we think you're going to break through. Oh, down in the pit again. Search, we think you're going to break through. Maybe you're going to do it. Down in the pit again. Search, breakthrough. So pit, search, breakthrough is the basis of storytelling of how I do it. And then only at the breakthrough moment do you share your statistics of how you've helped somebody or helped clients so people see that you're credible. But too often people go into statistics where it's kind of like event telling. When I was 21 years old, I made this. And then at 25, I made this. And then I bought the big mansion. And then I got the cars. And I got this. Then I got this. And it's all stat telling versus storytelling. Storytelling in a presentation is pit, search, breakthrough, statistics. Okay. This will save your life when you're presenting. So you can figure out how to put this in very quickly. Even in advertisements, if you're going to do a 3-minute YouTube ad, you can put a little bit of your story in and go, hey, I had this moment of loss. I searched for the answers. I found this breakthrough solution and my statistics went up. Okay. So again, recapping again, great presentations have a good headline that hook people, address the problem, present the solution really quickly of what I'm going to talk about today, and then boom, right into the story and the statistics of you, okay? Then without further ado, you just jump into the content. So if you're going to do a 60-minute presentation online, if you're going to do a 90-minute presentation online, I would say share 3 to 5 bullet points or teaching points, okay? 3 to 5 bullet points or teaching points. Sometimes you can go into 7 if you're just going to kind of skim the surface and give some value, move on to the next point, give some value, move on to the next point. But if you want to do a presentation that's rich, dive in deeply into 3 to 5 of the steps that you want to teach, and just have those in front of you before you go present. Be like, okay, great. So step number 1, I'm going to talk about this. Step number 2, this. Step number 3. And you can literally refer to them on a sheet of paper if you're presenting online. You could have a PowerPoint for the group that helps you. It helps the group. It's totally up to you. I feel that PowerPoint for me takes away from my ability to communicate as a speaker. So I never use PowerPoint unless I'm making a pitch from the stage and I got to show the exact steps of the offer. Otherwise, I just communicate to the audience and I engage the audience, okay? So when you're presenting content, one of the things you want to figure out is what style of a speaker are you? And this informs all the steps I'm teaching you right now. So are you a speaker who's pragmatic, where you like to go step by step by step and you're very systematic? Are you a speaker who's inspirational and you just like to go off on a rant sometimes and share some inspiration with people and then come back to the teaching points? Because that's totally fine, right? If you want to share some inspiration and come back, or if you want to tell a story in the middle of your teaching points and then come back and reinforce the teaching point. So for me, I tell stories a lot. And so when I'm speaking from the stage, I find that content often gets boring when you just go content, 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 content. After a while, the audience gets bored, okay? So I would drop in and tell the story. In fact, when I'm doing a pitch from the stage, and I actually make like probably a 75-minute pitch when I sell like a $35,000 or $55,000 offer, I'll tell you the exact stories I share throughout my content. So number 1, I get into some story before I get into the content. Normally be some story from my life or a story from a customer's life. That's the first thing, okay? So storytelling, right? My story. Number 2, I share case studies of at least 3 to 4 client success stories throughout a pitch. So I might get into the content and I might be teaching bullet point number 1 and I'm teaching it to you and I'm teaching you. I go, hey, by the way, you know, David, who I taught how to present from the stage, he'd never done a presentation in a seminar room ever in his life. And so when he came to me, he didn't know his message. He had no idea what he was saying. When I said, what do you do? He was like UFOs were flying over his head. And I said, who do you want to help? And he said, I want to work with men. And I said, great. So as a chiropractor, when you're working with men, what type of results do you feel like they get when you work with them? He's like, well, you know, I work with them and sometimes they're in pain and I get them out of pain. I said, yeah, but when they get out of the pain, what happens? And he says, well, sometimes they feel more powerful. And I said, when they feel more powerful, what happens? He goes, well, they feel more productive. And I said, when they feel more productive, what happens? And we started thinking through it. And I said, if it was on me, I would feel more productive. I would present better. I'd sell better. I'd make more money. I said, so your work would help me be more productive and make more money. So as you're working with men on this, you're lighting them up. You're getting them passionate. You're getting them on fire. Let's call your brand Man on Fire. And then let's have you go do a seminar. And when you go do the seminar, you're going to get up in front of the room and you're going to pitch this offer, Man on Fire. I'm going to help you design it. Sure enough, David, 90 days later, went and did a seminar, got up in front of the room, and in 1 weekend did $142,000 in sales in his first seminar ever. Okay. So if I was teaching presenting, that would be a great story to throw in through a tip that I'm teaching and being like, great. So it's those of you who are stage fright or have never done a seminar before and don't know what you would say or what you would even sell from the stage, let me tell you a story about David. And so I go into the story and then I go, great. So let's talk about step number 1, how to give that great presentation so you're overcoming the fear of selling when you get up in front of an audience. And I go right back to the step and I teach. So the point is, storytelling is fantastic to break up a presentation and to actually share a step, go into a story, come back, reinforce the step. Then I might go into my presentation. Let's say I'm giving 5 steps today. I might go, okay, great. Step number 2 is this. Step number 3 is this. And I teach on them. Let me tell you a story about Alex. And I drop in and I talk a story about Alex. So These are really, really, really key components because you'll lose your audience otherwise. People will just get bored. All right. And the worst thing you can try to do when you're giving a presentation is try and memorize the presentation. Okay. The only time I ever do this is when I do a stage play and it's 65 minutes and I know every single word. But I don't think that you need to memorize your basic content and your basic presentations that you're doing, because I feel like if you're trying to memorize it, you get lost. Sometimes you forget a word, you trip up. There's a story I'll tell you. When I was about 22 years old, this is just a really fast one. I'll tell you the short version. But I literally went into a CPA firm where there's about 10 accountants in the room, and I got up in front of them. It was like my third or fourth talk ever. I had been out the weekend before partying, and I was a little cocky and a little overconfident. I'll nail this talk, no problem, right? So I get up on the stage, and like 2 minutes in, I completely forget my lines, like completely blank. And the harder I try to memorize, harder I try to think through what I'm going to say next, the worse it gets. And I just start sweating. There's like beads of sweat coming down my forehead. And the harder I think, that's just dripping sweat down my body. And I take off my jacket and I got this light blue shirt on, and there's beads of sweat coming down my freaking, my chest, and my entire shirt within 2 minutes is completely soaking wet. So I do something, that you should never, ever do in speaking. I literally go and I sit down in the front row with the audience, and we're literally watching nobody on the freaking stage. Okay. If you want to hear how the rest of the story goes, come to one of my talks that I do in a seminar room. I'll tell you the whole thing. But it was the most embarrassing moment ever. Right. So if I'm teaching, speaking to somebody, I'm going to go, hey, if you're stage fright or you're concerned about getting up in front of an audience, don't worry about it. Let me tell you the story. And so you tell the story, and then you come back and you reinforce the teaching point of how they can go apply what you learned, which is to not memorize, to not pass out in front of the audience, to have bullet points and talking points when you present. And if you have bullet points and talking points, you'll never lose your place, because if you go off and you go astray for a little while, you come right back to the talking point. Okay. So a little recap of what I've been sharing so far. Number one, I talked about a headline. Give a good headline in a presentation. Okay. I'm going to teach you today how to do this so you can have that. Number two, talk about the problem that the customer's facing. Number three, introduce the solution that you're going to share today. Number four, tell your story. Number five, teach your content in 3 to 5 steps. Number six, in between your content, share stories. Your story, client success stories, moments of a loss where you had embarrassing moments, stories about money. I shared money stories, loss stories, client stories, personal stories. Those are the 4 that really cover the gamut when you're making a presentation to address objections that your customers have. Okay. So share stories. And then finally, if you're going to pitch from the stage, one of the keys to pitching from the stage is transitioning well into the offer. Okay. So if you, in the beginning of your presentation, let the customer know, even when you're on a webinar, if I'm leading a 3-day seminar, I tell them, hey, I'm going to invite you and extend an invitation this weekend to join one of my programs so I can serve you and help you more. So at the end of the presentation today, if you're inspired and you feel like you want more education and training, then pay close attention, because I'm going to share with you a little bit about how I can help you and go deeper into helping you achieve your goals. So let's jump into the presentation, right? So I'll say that like a few minutes into my talk, so they know it's coming. If I'm in a 90-minute talk, I'll always do that early on in the presentation. If I'm on a stage talk, I'll do that on day 1, day 2, and right before the offer. So they hear multiple times that an offer is coming. I don't really think people like the surprise of, oh my God, I'm being sold right now. If you tell them, then the resistance gets let out of the room and people are like, oh. I know on webinars, people are going to make an offer, right? I know when I'm going to a seminar, somebody's going to sell something. So just tell me when it's coming. And then I'll be more intrigued and be like, wow, he's telling me something cool is coming. I want to be there for this. I want to see. So let people know the offer's coming. Then when you get to the end of your presentation, again, recap of presentation. Number 1, good headline. Number 2, address the problem. Number 3, what's the solution that you're presenting today? Number 4, what's your story? Number 5, get into the content in 3 to 5 steps. Number 6, share stories throughout your presentation to keep people's attention. Number 7, let people know the offer is coming. And when you're about to make the offer, create a really smooth bridge for people to cross into the offer from the content to the offer. So if you're doing a webinar presentation, it goes something like this. Hey, I hope you've really enjoyed the content that I've been sharing with you today. And if you've really enjoyed the education and the training and you want more training and you want more education from me, then pay close attention, because I'm gonna share the remaining 4 steps to help you do X, Y, Z. So if you like the first 3 steps that you heard, I'm about to go deep dive into the final 4 steps. So pay close attention. Even if you're not considering buying anything today or joining one of my programs, pay close attention, because I'm going to teach you more. And I'm going to teach you the 4 most important steps that you need to know to launch online, or to be better presenting, or to make more money, or whatever your offer is, right? So I bridge it by telling them I'm going to teach them more. And these are the most important 4 steps that you need to know. So pay close attention. Even if you're not going to buy anyway, listen. And so people are like, all right, I don't want to miss out. I'm not going to buy anything. And then you start getting into the steps. They're like, oh, well, this is good. Oh, damn. I didn't know about that step. That's good. Oh, I heard about that. I've been failing at that. That's good. And all of a sudden, the non-buyers who are just like, oh, I'm not buying anything from this guy today, they start going, maybe I'm close to crossing the finish line. Maybe I'm going to buy. And they do. So that's how you do it. Okay. So that is the 7 steps that I promised you to delivering a presentation. I could roll on into the pitch right now and just tell you like how you make the pitch precisely in every given moment of exactly what you do. But I'll do that in another video, because you've been here long enough. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed this. Again, here's a final recap in case you didn't get all the notes. This is just really great stuff. I'm giving you the 7 steps. All you need to do right now is sit down and literally write out bullet points to your presentation. And I guarantee you, you could take the 7 steps I just gave you. You could put bullet points. And because you're an expert in your area and you have knowledge, and even though you don't think you're an expert fully, because people discount their knowledge all the time, they're like, I'm not really an expert in this, yet you've been doing it for 10 years. You could recite it like the back of your hand. You know exactly what to say, but you're like, nah, I'm not really an expert. Nobody would pay me for this. Not true. People will pay you. You do know it. Put it in a framework, put it down on a piece of paper so you look and go, wow, man, that really is good stuff that I have to offer the world, and deliver it powerfully, okay? So 1 is simple. Headline, okay? This is the recap. Headline. I'm helping you do this, or I'm going to teach you how to do this so you can have that today. Number 2. Here's the problem that you're probably facing, Mr. Client. Number 3, here's the solution that I'm going to teach you about today. Number 4, here's a little bit about who I am and my story. Number 5, here's the 3 to 5 steps that I'm going to teach you. Go to 3 to 5 steps. Number 6, storytelling throughout the presentation to engage people. And number 7, tell people the offer is coming at the beginning of the presentation and smoothly transition into the offer at the end. And tell them you're going to teach them and educate them more throughout the offer, because you are. And they're going to learn more, and people will listen, and they'll get more and more interested, and they'll reach, and they'll finally buy. And then in one of my next videos, I'll share with you exactly what do you say when you make the pitch. If you know how to make the pitch, anybody can pitch from the stage, because pitching from the stage requires, number 1, good confront, a willingness to just be there, make the offer, allow the audience to respond however they're going to respond, receive it, and make the offer again in a different way. Allow the audience to respond, do what they're going to do, receive it, handle objections in advance, right? Don't let the audience bring up the objections. Know what they're going to say. Hey, I don't have the money. I got to think about it. I got to talk to my partner. Maybe I'll wait till later. Maybe now's not the right time. And you address every single one of those. Make a call to action. Address 1, make a call to action. Address another, make a call to action. Tell a story, make a call to action. Address another, make a call to action. This is how you pitch. The greatest failure of anybody who's ever pitched on stage, I'll tell you what it is right now. The greatest failure of anybody who's ever pitched on stage is not making enough call to actions. The biggest rookies, even me when I first started, get up on stage and they think because they make one call to action, the customers automatically go, that's me. Yes, I'm going to sign up. And it doesn't work that way. And all of a sudden, you make the call to action, you feel rejected because nobody stands up, and you're like, that wasn't a good presentation. Nobody likes my expertise. They're not going to buy from me, and I should never do this again. And that is the worst mistake you can make because you probably made a great presentation. The problem is you made one freaking call to action and that never, ever, 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 ever works. Okay. You might get the 5%ers, right? That are ready to go right away. I remember when I made my first 100K offer like a decade ago from the stage. There's one dude who was pacing back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, I think this guy's going to kill me. What is he even doing, man? He's pacing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. He's literally waiting for me to make the offer just so we can go grab the envelope and sign up. Those are the 5%ers, man. And to think that just because everybody didn't do that, your presentation is no good is not true. The key to selling anybody anything is make one call to action, handle an objection you think they have when you're presenting to a group, make another call to action, handle an objection you think that they have, make another call to action, handle an objection you think that they have, okay? Put some type of limiter on it, right? Scarcity sells, guys. Find some real reason for scarcity to get people to take action, right? If you're doing a program and you only take 15 people, right? Like we're building funnels out for people in this room coming up on Monday, and we have a 15 limit cap to this particular event. So let them know, hey, we got 15 spots. We got 8 left. Do you want in, right? Do fast action pricing when you're making a pitch, my friends. Fast action pricing, okay? So when you're making a pitch, if you go all of a sudden and you just tell people, hey, the offer today is $10,000, listen, buyers are trained enough, man. So one of the reasons why you have to do this, if you go $10,000, the person's waiting, they're going, wait, are they going to drop the price? Are they going to drop the price? If you don't have like a value pricing of like, hey, my offer is easily worth $100,000 to those of you who are veterans, right? And if you just apply these 2 or 3 things, sure, over the next 2-3 years, maybe even 1 year, you can make $100,000 if you're a veteran. If you're somebody who's brand new and you just apply these principles, it's at least you can make $10,000 over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe even the next month. So if I'm selling something that's $5,000, I better establish value at $100,000 or $10,000 for the newbies and establish the value before I go into the pitch. And so many times, like, you don't have to put like, do like the car salesman pricing that people go like, okay, well, the offer is this, and we're going to cross out that price today, but the offer is this. You don't have to do it like that. You can do it in a way in which you think your offer is valued at to any particular person. And if you say my offer is valued at this, yet today I'm going to make a special offer for you, then people are like, cool, I could see the value in that. And then if like we're in a seminar room, we give seminar room pricing, like event pricing in the room. The pricing in the room is X, and when you leave tomorrow, it's Y. So value pricing is hugely important in making an offer, number one. Number two, if it's special pricing on the phone or event pricing, so that if they come back later, it's going to be more expensive, right? Or if you don't want to do like, hey, you come back tomorrow and it's more expensive, just give them bonuses. And then if you don't take action on the bonus today or in the seminar room today, then you don't get the bonuses tomorrow, okay? So you have to give people reasons to act. And I wish I could say that in a seminar room, you could talk to everybody's number one goal and know exactly what they're thinking and speak to their number one goals individually and reg them on their goals. You could if you knew everybody's goals, but you can't. Okay. So when you're in a room, particularly with an audience, you have to handle people with value pricing, special pricing, fast action bonuses, and multiple calls to action. Okay. This is like a masterclass in pitching. Okay. I've sold close to $13 million from the stage. So I know how to present in a seminar room and in virtual rooms. And it goes exactly like that. Okay. And then when you get to the end, and you think nobody is left in the room to buy, and you're like, man, I just made so many calls to actions, there's nobody left to buy. There's always somebody left to buy. And so there's people who are inspired by like, okay, great, huge opportunity, boom. There's buyers like that, and they just jump up and they go. There's other people who are like, hey, I want to know kind of value and deal that I'm getting here. I'm getting a deal, boom, I'm in. There's other people that are motivated by loss. Like, wow, I've been waiting so long, and one of my friends, Alex Mandossian, taught me this a long time ago. The cost of inaction. So you could talk about, wow, you could go out and make $1 million, $10 million. You could get out of pain, or the outcome could be you could have more productivity in your life, or you could be healthier, or whatever. But if you talk to people about the cost of inaction, the people who are afraid of losing something, which is a good percentage of the audience, they will respond and be motivated by the cost of inaction. Now, this isn't a bad thing. People are just different levels of just like emotional levels in their life. The people are excited. They hear something exciting, they're like, yeah, right? The people who are like, kind of pragmatic, systematic, they're looking for a deal. And the people who are like in fear, loss motivates them because that's where they're living, right? There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with selling about loss because it's true. Because if they don't do anything, the cost is huge, right? So you have to hit the 3 bands, guys. Hit the excited people, hit the pragmatic people, hit the lost people, and then you can also just tell a story at the end that hits some level of just inspiration, purpose, motivation. And I always tell a personal story that's like one of the most powerful stories of my life. It is the most powerful presentation I've ever given in my life, and it was I got asked to speak at my my grandmother's funeral, and so it was like the one talk that I was most nervous about in my life was that. And it was actually the most profound, most connected, most loving, most amazing experience ever. So I always talk about that experience, not the speech itself, but what happened through the story I was telling, and what happened that day at the funeral was profound. And so I tell that at the end because it connects people, because I give the message at the end that, like, if you're heading down a path right now and you think that your life is going to be good, but it's not going to be extraordinary, then maybe it's time for you to step in and take an action that is on the path of being extraordinary, And I tie that into a whole message that has to do with my family, and it's powerful. So the last piece is, if you really want to end, because a presentation is a show, people want to be entertained. So when we make an offer, people stand up, and for guys, it's like bad to the bone, and the music goes off, and we make them stand up and grab the envelope, and people clap in, and everyone come shake their hands. When the women stand up, it's like, this girl is on fire, right? And that song goes, and boom, and so everybody's clapping. And so sales should be celebrated, and too many people want to make it a thing of it's a technique, or it's I gotta slip the offer in, or I gotta do something that manipulates. No, you overtly just tell people, I'm gonna make an offer to you, and then there's nothing you have to do except hit the key points in a sales presentation that get people at different emotional levels to take action. Because if I'm communicating to you and you're in a place where you're like completely bored and I'm overly excited, you're not even going to respond to me. So it's not like I'm literally like, okay, well, I got to hit this point. I got to make sure I hit the loss thing because loss sells. No, there's people who are literally sitting in a place of loss. So the only way I can communicate with them is understanding where they're at and communicating in that frequency. And if I don't, then they're not going to move and they're not going to change anything. So there literally is an understanding of why you do these things, not just doing things from the perspective of like, oh, I heard somebody do this on a stage once and you can really get people to go to the back of the room and do stuff if you do these things. No, you want to help people. If you want to help people, you got to be able to communicate with them. And if you're super excited and they're lethargic, they're not going to hear a damn thing you're saying. So you communicate where they're at or a little bit above where they're at, boom, and you get the seminar room to move, okay? All right, that is the lesson for today. I hope this serves you. I'll see you on the other side, and hope this presentation framework really helped you. Cheers, my friends.